Ibrahim, Ibrahim, Ibrahim. Allah, Allah, Allah will pray for you. Hey, that's right. Here we're gonna go with Queen. Uh, Queen is kind of a tough one because pretty much everything has already been told so many times. The way I see the band's career is you got the 70s Queen, you got the 80s Queen, including Innuendo, and I guess you got this third part with Adam Lambert and who knows what happening. I'm really mostly interested with the 70s stuff. You can argue though that Freddie Mercury was a better frontman in the 80s when he left piano pretty much behind and just went full on attack on the Wembley Stadium in 86, for instance. Um, and yeah, I can kind of argue, kind of agree with that. But I think musically they became kind of like this arena rock band more and kind of lost some of that uniqueness they had in the 70s. In the 70s, Queen was a monster. It was such a weird band with, I approach it as a rock band or even a proto heavy metal kind of thing, but they have so many different music styles on their albums. There's some jazz, there's some, I guess, folk music, there's some good old rock and roll. And then you find some gospel music and opera, and whatever comes to mind, they probably did it. They have some very Beatles-like songs, for instance. They can pretty much do anything they like, and it sounds really effortless. I guess the one downside with Queen for me for the longest time was that I feel they have a sense of finding a really tasty um, section, you know, for a song where everything just, they just have this very natural idea. I don't know how much they worked in the studio. I guess they did work quite a lot. But they have like this vision of the perfect moment in a song or on an album. But they don't always quite know how to get there. Like how to develop the idea or something like that. It's kind of difficult to explain, but it quite took me a long while to accept that there's going to be bits and pieces and they're going to be kind of disjointed sometimes. But it's the way Queen does things. The main point with Queen, I think, is that they try never be boring. And that's pretty much what they managed to do in the 70s. Here's their first album, Queen from 1973. I only very lately got this album because I remembered it being actually worse than what it is. It's actually a very solid album. Keep Yourself Alive, Doing All Right, Great King Rat, Liar. I mean, yeah, some of these songs are a bit silly, and Seven Seas of Rye is kind of not ready yet. It's kind of like one of the demo phases, but still very cool album. I would actually, yeah, absolutely recommend you checking it out if you already haven't. Queen 2. There are lots of people who say this is their best album. The cover artwork definitely is very iconic. But for me, it's a bit of a letdown. I think this is their worst 70s album for me personally. I like everything on the B side, or Black side, or Freddie Mercury side, whatever you want to call it. The Ogre Battle, A Fairy Fellas, Masterstroke, March of the Black Queen, all great stuff. But on the A side, I don't know, it doesn't really excite me. White Queen is a brilliant song, but the rest of the stuff, I don't know. I think it's probably the weakest one they did in the 70s, for me personally. Here's probably my favorite album, Sheer Heart Attack. I think every song here is just perfect. Except maybe the second to last song, She Makes Me. I don't know, that's kind of boring. I don't really like it. I kind of appreciate that they're trying to do some kind of bring some new atmosphere to the album at the very late stage of the album, but it just doesn't really work. It's kind of boring and droning and goes on a bit. There's the bonus EP. on my version also. I think they also released a live album around this time, Live at the Rainbow. You can actually, if you have the double CD version, there's like one live set from Queen 2 tour, and then there's another from Sheer Heart Attack. And this is a very cool one. I really like the packaging. It's a kind of a new release. It's really lovely that they finally managed to release officially some of these magical early performances. There's also the DVD version of this. It's pretty much the same thing but with picture. I guess there's also a Blu-ray floating around, which probably has like everything from Queen 2 tour as well. Here you only get like a couple of songs. Okay, what next? The big one, the one that really made them huge, with the hit Bohemian Rhapsody, of course. So here we go with Night at the Opera, a reference to the Marx Brothers films of the 30s, I think. Death on Two Legs, what a brilliant song. Sweet Lady is a good rocker. Then there are some beautiful ballads like You're My Best Friend and Love of My Life. Then there's, of course, Bohemian Rhapsody. And then there are these very short, silly in-between songs like Lazing on a Sunday Afternoon and Seaside Rendezvous. And I think those are very, very lovely indeed and show the humor of the band. However, some of the other songs I'm not quite that excited about, like 39. It has like this, I guess, folk music influence there. It just doesn't really excite me that much. Then I think they released another live show lately from this tour, A Night at the Odeon. So this is recorded on Christmas in 1975, Christmas Eve, 24th of December at Hammersmith Odeon. And basically, you pretty much got the same set list as on Sheer Heart Attack tour, but of course you also get Bohemian Rhapsody here. I think in two pieces, actually. Yeah, they start with it and then they play Killer Queen and March of the Black Queen and return back to Bohemian Rhapsody. So, cool show. Probably the best show I've seen from Queen on DVD. Oh, then there's Day at the Races. Not quite as good as Night at the Opera, but it still has plenty of classic songs, especially on the A side. I like You Take My Breath Away, even though it's kind of like a ballad. The Millionaire Waltz is very underrated. You and I is a fun little song. Somebody to Love. Good old fashioned Lover Boy. You got that cheeky Freddie Mercury style of humor there, and I guess there's like a bonus EP here as well, so that's nice. Then there's News of the World. This one just got this like super deluxe treatment a couple of years ago. I don't really get it because after Queen 2, I think this is probably their weakest album from the 70s. But it's the one with huge hits, of course. You get We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions. I really like It's Late. That's a really cool song near the end of the album. A really good, solid rocker. I think really underrated. My Melancholy Blues, yeah, it's precisely what you would expect, but it's really tastefully done, I think. But then it's kind of it's really difficult finding anything brilliant here other than those. I guess Spread Your Wings is alright. There are lots of pretty good songs here, but there's hardly anything here as good as It's Late, in my opinion. So it's kind of like a bit of a shame, a bit of a letdown, for me personally. I'm sure lots of other people are gonna really enjoy that album. But Jazz, oh my goodness, I didn't expect this one to be as good. I mean, after 3 kind of lukewarm, kind of quite good albums, I would say, I didn't expect something as brilliant as jazz. But here we go with Mustafa, which I already referenced. I think Jealousy is kind of a cool song. Dead on Time is one of the heaviest they've done. And then there are good rocking songs like Bicycle Race, If You Can't Beat Them, Let Me Entertain You, which became a kind of a live staple. Then there's Leaving Home Ain't Easy, which really sounds like Beatles a lot. But I don't care. It's still pretty good. Don't Stop Me Now. Oh my god, that's the perfect Friday evening song. When you get home from work or from school, you put Don't Stop Me Now playing, and you're all pumped up and ready to face the weekend. So really, really cool stuff. And I guess there's a bonus EP here as well. There we go. On that tour, they released a live album back in the day, their first one, I believe, in the late 70s, Live Killers, where you pretty much got all the stuff you want to hear. The track list is quite good. There are, of course, some songs I would have loved to hear that they left out. And then there are some others that maybe are not quite as important, but are also put in here. But really, really cool live album. The sound quality isn't perfect, but I don't think a live album should have the perfect sound quality anyway. I guess it's good that it's a bit rough around the edges and a bit raw. I kind of like that. You get all the biggest hits certainly here, and lots of other cool songs. So that's pretty much the Queen that I know and love. It's really a shame they haven't released some of the other 70s live shows. They released, there's an unofficial gig floating around from Earl's Court in 1977, which has a really cool track list. So if you're into that stuff, you should check it out. Also, there's a Houston show from 1977, and then from Budokan, Japan, from 1979. That's like a 30 minutes. I think it was like a TV special originally. So, it's not a whole show, but it's still cool to see that live stuff. And these kind of fulfill nicely the stuff they did with Night at the Odeon and Rainbow 74. Here you get all their old videos up to the early 80s, I think. So this is a cool one. I think there's some kind of rare videos here that were previously like censored. I think Bicycle Race might be one of those. Yeah, I think it's that one where they originally had this, very, very easily clad women on bicycles, basically doing their bicycle race around. I can't remember which stadium it was, but they recorded that stuff. So it's here uncensored for the first time. Here's live at the Wembley Stadium, 1986. I think on that same tour they had a show in Hungary, and that has been released in DVD, probably even officially. I have only seen it unofficially, but I think it has been released. Budapest, yeah. Queen Budapest from 1986. So if you really like this tour, you might want to check that one out. It's pretty much the same set list though as on Wembley. So they play this Hungarian folk song there. And there are some other minor differences, but Wembley is like the full-on attack, and Budapest kind of seems a bit like a practice for the really really important show. But still, I think it's nicely done. Then in the early 80s, they released this Rock Montreal thing, which is pretty nicely done just before the terrible album Hot Space, which is just terrible. Also, there's a Live Aid show included here. It's a really cool one. And then there's Live at the Bowl from 1982. I think that's the one from Hot Space Tour, so that's probably the worst DVD they released. But there you go. Bunch of Queen stuff for you, and see you on the next one.